This happened a few months ago. I was 26 and just graduated college. I wanted to save some money and start my art career in a new city. I found this rundown apartment complex online. The place looked rough, with faded bricks and peeling paint. But I thought I could make it work. I figured sharing a 2-bedroom unit with 2 roommates could be an adventure. I hoped to meet new people. I never could have imagined what awaited me. On my first night, I was excited. I settled in and unpacked my art supplies. I heard some hushed voices coming from the kitchen. I peeked in, curious. My roommates were talking about the old resident. Their voices were low and serious. I felt a shiver but tried to laugh it off. Maybe they were just trying to scare me. I got back to my artwork and shook off the strange energy. The next week, things began to get weird. I noticed my stuff was out of place. My sketchbook would move from the coffee table to the counter. I thought I was just forgetful. Then one day, while cleaning, I found strange symbols drawn on the kitchen wall. I didn't understand them, but they made my stomach twist. I wasn't sure if my roommates were playing a prank, but their late-night whispers sent chills down my spine. One night, around midnight, I heard noises in the hallway. There were soft footsteps, like someone pacing. I turned my head quickly. Shadows flitted past under the door. I felt my heart race. I thought it must be my roommates. But still, something didn't feel right. Things got worse. I started seeing odd silhouettes darting out of the corners of my eyes. My roommates' faces seemed to hide secrets whenever they looked at each other. The way they interacted felt strange, like they shared a truth I wasn't meant to know. I felt cold more often, as if someone was watching me. One evening, while I sat sketching, I glanced up and saw one of them just standing in the hallway. I stared at him, waiting for him to say something. I asked if he was okay. He didn't answer. He just stared ahead at the wall, where the symbols were. My heart pounded, and in an instant, he vanished into thin air. I was left feeling hollow and terrified. Days turned into a blur of confusion and fear. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was happening. I decided to stay quiet and let it wash over me. I thought if I ignored the whispers and shadows, they would go away, but one night, I woke from a deep sleep to see my roommate standing beside my bed in the dark, murmuring to each other in low tones. They didn't look at me. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Then one of them turned and whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." My blood ran cold. I felt trapped, like I was living in someone else's nightmare. I never stayed there again after that. I packed my things that very night, caught in the lingering tension of their whispers. I still hear them sometimes during sleepless nights. The shadows, they still watch me. I just wish I knew what really lurked behind those eyes. I tried to put the apartment behind me. For weeks, I crashed at friends' places, using their couches and spare beds as temporary shelters. It was hard to shake the nagging feeling that something had followed me. I chalked it up to my imagination, but the memories kept creeping back. Eventually, I decided I needed to get my life back on track. I found a small studio apartment, a fresh start away from the chaos. It felt liberating at first, my own space, no roommates, no whispers. I filled the walls with my artworks, each piece a reflection of my journey. But that sense of freedom didn't last long. One evening, as I was painting, I heard a tapping on the window. It was soft at first, almost like a heartbeat. I peered through the glass, half expecting to see anything. But the street outside was empty. I shook my head, dismissing it as paranoia. What had those roommates done to me? The following day, I saw my old roommate, Mark, at a coffee shop. My heart dropped. I hadn't thought I would run into him. I tried to act casual, but he looked different. Hollow, almost. His eyes had a sheen to them, like he hadn't slept in days. I approached him, hoping to get some closure about what happened that night. "Hey, Mark," I said, forcing a smile. "How have you been?" He looked at me blankly, and for a moment, I wondered if he even recognized me. Then he leaned in close, lowering his voice as if afraid to be overheard. "You left too soon," he said. "You didn't see everything." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He glanced around, paranoia etched on his face. "The old resident, it's still there. It gets to everyone eventually." I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't want to hear this. "I don't want to talk about it." "Then you don't understand." He turned to go, but not before shooting me one last look filled with dread. "You can't escape it. It knows." As he walked away, I felt a pit form in my stomach. I brushed it off, but later that night, while I was trying to paint, I couldn't focus. The room felt heavy. I poured myself a glass of water, but my hands trembled. All I could think about was the old resident. A shadow cast over my mind, urging me to remember the things I wanted to forget. Just then, I heard it again, the faint tapping on my window. It was more insistent this time. My palms grew sweaty as I approached cautiously. I held my breath and pulled the curtain aside. This time, there was a figure standing in the darkness. They were too far away to make out any details, but something felt wrong. I slammed the curtain shut. My heart raced. I was terrified, yet strangely compelled. That night, I tossed and turned, haunted by what Mark said. Was the old resident real? As dawn broke, I felt a sense of urgency. I couldn't ignore it any longer. In the morning, I made a decision. I had to go back the apartment, the symbols, my roommates. Whatever was haunting me needed a confrontation. I didn't know what awaited me there, but I was determined to face it. As I gathered my things, the tapping returned. Only, this time, it was louder, almost like a frantic knocking. I froze in place, feeling a growing dread wash over me. I knew that whatever lay ahead wouldn't stay quiet for long. I walked back to my old apartment, each step heavier than the last. The street felt unfamiliar, as if a veil of unease had settled over it since I last passed through. The building loomed ahead, its facade unchanged, but I felt as if it had grown darker, a silent witness to my fears. The front door creaked as I pushed it open. As soon as I stepped inside, chills swept down my spine. Memories rushed back, fragments of laughter, arguments, shadows of things that lurked just out of sight. I glanced at the door leading to my old room, and for a moment, I hesitated. Thoughts swirled in my mind. What if Mark was right? What if the old resident was still here? Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself and walked toward the familiar corridor. The dim lights flickered overhead, making the air feel electric. I reached my old door, but something made me pause. The knob was cold to the touch, and I felt the weight of whatever lingered behind it pressing against my chest. That I turned the knob slowly, and the door swung open with a low groan. The room was just as I left it, cluttered, chaotic, and yet eerily still. The air hung heavy with a familiar scent, a mix of paint and something I couldn't quite place. I stepped inside, and the door clicked shut behind me. That's when I noticed it, a strange symbol drawn on the wall opposite my bed. I hadn't painted it or seen it before. It looked like a crude version of a spiral, surrounded by jagged lines. My heart raced. Memories of late nights spent sketching and listening to voices I thought were just echoes fought for control in my mind. I remember those night screams or whispers. I could never tell. That I stepped closer to examine it, but a sudden rush of cold air swirled around me. I spun around, instinctively looking for the source. The window was wide open. I hadn't left it that way. I moved to close it, but something caught my eye in the reflection of the glass. I gasped. There, in the reflection, stood a figure behind me, pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes. I turned quickly, but the room was empty. Just the echo of my breathing filled the silence. My skin prickled with fear. Somewhere deep inside, a voice urged me to leave, to run and never return. But another part of me felt anchored, drawn to uncover whatever it was that resided here. I took a deep breath and called out, "If there's someone here, I want to know the truth." Silence enveloped the room. My pulse echoed in my ears, and just as despair began to settle in, the window slammed shut, rattling the frames. I jumped back, terrified. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement near the corner. It was gone before I could blink, a shadow darting into the closet. Adrenaline surged through me. I had come to confront my past, but now it felt like the past was confronting me. I moved to the closet, dread pooling in my stomach. I had to know what lurked inside. As I pulled the door open, a wave of dust flew into the air, but it was what was in there that made me freeze. I don't know what I was expecting to find, but it wasn't this. An old sketchbook rested on the shelf, its cover worn and faded. I recognized the drawings, the same symbols, the same messy strokes. I felt sick, when I understood. I wasn't the only one who'd been touched by the old resident. Before I could process the implications, a chill enveloped me, and I realized I was not alone. I stood frozen, staring at the sketchbook. My heart hammered in my chest. I reached for it, my fingers trembling. This wasn't just a relic, it was a connection to something beyond my grasp. It felt wrong and right all at once. As I opened the book, the pages crackled under my touch. The first few pages were filled with nonsensical drawings, spirals intertwined with grotesque faces and unsettling patterns. It didn't take long for discomfort to rise in my throat. The further I flipped through, the more familiar the symbols became, the same ones that marred my walls. Then I found them, dark notes, scribbled in a hurried hand. They told a story of a resident haunted by something unseen, something that thrived on fear and confusion. Each entry seemed to pull me deeper into their turmoil. My pulse quickened with each line. I glanced at the closet again, convinced that whatever had possessed this space was somehow tied to what I held in my hands. The air grew thick, suffocating, as if the room itself pressed against me, demanding I submit to its secrets. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, shattering my focus. I shot upright, clutching the sketchbook like a lifeline. My instincts screamed at me to run, but the curiosity rooted me to the spot. Whatever was happening in the kitchen felt more urgent, more alive than the shadows lurking in the corners. With a deep breath, I stepped out of the bedroom, the sketchbook still cradled in my arms. The noise echoed again, a blend of metal clattering and a low, almost mournful sound. I hesitated at the doorway, unsure of my next move. Every instinct told me to retreat, yet something compelled me forward. As I entered the kitchen, my breath caught in my throat. The table was overturned, chairs knocked aside. The window above the sink hung open, rattling in the wind. A sudden draft swept past me, carrying the scent of damp earth and something rancid. Then I saw it, a shape moving behind the counter. It was too quick, too fluid. I took a cautious step forward, heart racing. "Is someone there?" I called, but my voice echoed in the chaos, swallowed by the overwhelming silence that followed. With a surge of courage, I walked closer, peering around the edge of the counter. That's when I saw the figure. It was hunched over, rummaging through the debris, its movements jerky and erratic. The air snapped with tension, and I felt my stomach drop. "I know you're there," I blurted out, forcing the words past my fear. The figure froze, its head snapping up, revealing hollow, dark eyes that seemed to penetrate through me. Panic surged, and I stumbled back, knocking into the overturned chair. It laughed, a deep, guttural sound that sent chills spiraling down my spine. I couldn't breathe. One thought screamed in my mind: I had to get out. Just then, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness before flickering back to life. But the figure had vanished. The kitchen was empty, save for the chaos. My mind raced as I processed what had just happened. Was this the old resident? Or something worse? I backed away toward the door, clutching the sketchbook tightly. Whatever it was, it had shown itself to me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. As I turned to flee, a whisper echoed behind me, slithering into my ears. "I'm not done with you yet." I stumbled forward, heart pounding, ready to escape. But as I reached for the door, I realized I had no idea what was waiting for me outside. The air outside the kitchen felt lighter, yet weighed down by an unseen pressure. I yanked the door open, half expecting another encounter, but only found the dimly lit hallway leading back to the living room. My instincts told me to run, to escape this place that seemed intent on drawing me into its depths. But I couldn't shake the thought of the sketchbook. It had drawn me in, revealing horrors that felt too real to ignore. Legs trembling, I took a step into the hallway, glancing back at the kitchen. Silence settled like a thick blanket, making my heart race even faster. Just as I turned to hurry away, a flicker caught my eye. It was the reflection of something in the mirror that hung on the wall beside me. I moved closer, the sketchbook still clutched to my chest. My reflection looked normal, but just behind me, in the glass, shadows danced in a way they shouldn't have. Someone or something was there, just out of sight. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. The mirror, however, showed the flickering silhouette still darting behind me. I couldn't tell what it was. Panic clawed at my throat, but I couldn't look away. Each glance returned me to the same blurring shapes, almost like the illustrations in the sketchbook. Had I been marked? Was this how it intended to play with me? I staggered back into the living room, breathing hard. Memories hit me, conversations from the previous tenant I'd overheard when I first moved in. They spoke in hushed tones about things lurking in corners, how they could feel eyes watching them. I had thought they were merely eccentric, but now a loud crash came from behind me. I whipped around, ready to confront whatever was there. The bookshelf had toppled over, spilling books and trinkets across the floor. The same dark laughter I had heard before echoed from somewhere deeper in the apartment. "Get out of my house," I whispered, though it was more a plea than a command. The laughter morphed into a hiss, like dead leaves crackling beneath a weight. Fear ignited a fresh wave of adrenaline, and I raced to the front door. I could barely breathe, but I pushed down on the handle. It wouldn't budge. Locked. My heart sank. "You're not leaving," the whisper coiled through the air again, and I felt icy fingers trace along my spine. I whirled around, thrusting the sketchbook forward as if it could shield me from whatever was closing in. "Who are you?" I shouted into the empty space. Silence fell for a heartbeat, then the sounds of footsteps thundering against the floor echoed from behind. They weren't mine. They were heavier, more deliberate. I turned, searching for a weapon among the wreckage. A broken lamp. A shard of glass, and then I saw it. Within the mess, a figure formed, its outline indistinguishable from the darkness. My breath hitched when it started to move toward me, those hollow eyes locking onto mine. I needed to escape. I had to find a way out. Just then, I noticed something glowing on the floor. The sketchbook had slipped from my grasp when I dropped the lamp. A strange light pulsed from it, illuminating the figure for a moment, freezing it in place. Then it reached a hand toward me, as if it wanted the book that I didn't know if I could trust it. But as the figure drew closer, something in me stirred. Maybe the sketchbook held the key. Somehow, I felt that whatever this thing wanted, was tied to the chaotic art I had glimpsed before. That I took a step back, but the shadows converged, and I knew I was out of time. "Please, what do you want?" My voice was barely a whisper, trembling with the weight of everything I'd experienced. That in a chilling hiss, it responded, "You hold the answer." Fear gripped me. I had to decide. Fight or flight. But I couldn't move, and just as the figure lunged, everything went dark. I awoke on the living room floor, blinking against the dim light filtering through the windows. My heart raced, a loud drum in my chest. The silence was oppressive, making it hard to think. Had what I saw been real? Was the figure still here? I pushed myself up, looking around. The toppled bookshelf lay where it had fallen, its contents strewn about. The sketchbook glowed faintly, still lying on the floor. I reached for it, feeling an urge to open it again. What answers could it possibly hold? I could still hear its words echoing in my mind, "You hold the answer." Grip tightening on the edge of the desk, I pulled myself to my feet. I would have to confront what was happening. I had to understand. The sketches flickered through my thoughts, monstrous figures bound in pencil that felt too familiar in this moment. Each drawing felt like a memory, whispering back with a quiet menace. I glanced at the front door again. It still appeared locked. I tried to twist the knob, but it resisted like it had before. My hands shook, and I stepped back, uncertainty flooding my thoughts. If the darkness couldn't let me leave, then I had to face it. Suddenly, a noise drew my attention, a soft thud, then a crumpling sound. I turned back to the living room, and my blood ran cold. The shadows in the corners twisted and seemed to take form. I wasn't imagining things, I was being watched. With a sudden rush of courage, I picked up the sketchbook, flipping it open to a random page. The drawings felt alive beneath my fingertips as I traced the lines. One sketch caught my eye, a figure that looked identical to the shadow I'd seen earlier, but its mouth twisted into a smile, a grin that seemed to mock me. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice a desperate cry. The room shifted slightly, shadows dancing closer, and the laughter returned, but this time it was different, deep, resonant, echoing like an unsung song trapped between worlds. The air felt charged, pressing against me like I was standing too close to a storm. "Answer me," I demanded, but the laughter only grew louder, swirling around me. That's when I noticed the back wall of the room, seeming to breathe in and out, an odd rippling effect pulling my gaze. Something was hidden within the shadows. Something I had to see. Courage surged in me again, pushing me toward the wall. I stepped closer, bracing myself as the darkness thickened. I felt the cold breath of the unseen drawing nearer. I pressed a trembling hand against the fabric of shadows and, with a sharp exhale, whispered, "Show me." The shadows recoiled at my touch, revealing the outline of an old door I had never noticed before. It was ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning me to explore. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. Yet, curiosity gnawed at my gut. What lay beyond? I could either retreat and let the dread consume me or step forward and find answers that had eluded me for too long. So I pushed the door wider, my heart thumping loudly in my ears. That's when I heard the whispers clearly, intertwining with the laughter, and I knew I wasn't alone. Someone was waiting on the other side. I stepped through the door, and an icy chill enveloped me. The air was thick, almost solid. The light beyond the threshold flickered, revealing a small, cluttered space. It felt like a basement, but the walls appeared much older and lined with crumbling concrete. In one corner, a flickering bulb dangled from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows that twisted and warped. "Hello?" My voice wavered, lost in the vastness of the room. The whispers grew louder, settling around me like a heavy fog. I couldn't decipher the words, but their tone was urgent, almost pleading. I stepped further inside, my feet crunching on broken glass and unknown debris. My heart raced as I scanned the room, searching for any sign of a presence. The air stirred as I caught a glimpse of a figure lurking in the corner, just beyond the reach of the light. I squinted, but it vanished, leaving only the flickering shadows teasing my mind that I remembered the sketches. I ran my fingers over the pages in my sketchbook, feeling a strange connection to whatever haunted this space. Each page was a reflection of fears and memories, a twisted version of reality. Was this place real? I pondered, fear creeping up my spine alongside the unsettling thoughts. Then, the laughter erupted again, sending shivers coursing through me. This time, it was accompanied by a sharp whisper that sounded almost like my name. "Riley." The voice was close, and I could feel its weight on my chest. "I need to know what you want," I shouted, my voice slicing through the chill of the room. For a moment, everything went silent, and I held my breath, waiting that a tremor came from the adjacent wall, and to my horror, the concrete began to warp, revealing strange symbols, each one connected with dark lines that pulsed as if alive. They were familiar yet unrecognizable, their shapes etched into my memory like a remnant of a long-forgotten nightmare. I took a step back, but the ground shifted beneath me, and I stumbled forward. My pulse quickened as the shadows morphed, drawing closer, urging me forward into the murky depths of this forgotten place. I have to know, I repeated, pushing my way past the fear that gripped me. My eyes darted around until they landed on a dusty mirror mounted against the wall. In the dim light, I finally caught my reflection, haggard and pale, but it was the shadow looming behind me that made me gasp. It was the figure from the sketch, its mouth twisted in that same mocking grin. I spun around, but there was nothing there. Had I been imagining it? The laughter started again, this time echoing off the walls, mocking my confusion. "What do you want?" I cried one last time. Suddenly, the mirror shattered, sending shards flying in every direction. One piece landed at my feet, reflecting a moment that sent chills racing through me. I bent down, and in the fragmented glass, I saw a glimpse of another room, a room that looked like mine but different, darker. Then everything went silent, the shadows paused, waiting for me to react. Fear coursed through me as I realized that with this discovery came a choice, to turn away and escape, or to plunge deeper into not only the mysteries of this space, but perhaps into another world altogether. And before I could decide, I felt a cold breeze swirl around me, and the whispers returned, louder this time, beckoning me to step further into the unknown. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the shattered mirror. The cool air wrapped around me like a shroud, and I felt the whispers intensify, as if they were urging me to look deeper. With hesitant hands, I brushed away the dust from the largest piece of glass. What I saw made my stomach drop. The reflection wasn't of my room but of a dark, distorted version of the living space I knew. The furniture was overturned, and the walls dripped with a shadowy substance, twisting the familiar into something menacing. I leaned in further, trying to convince myself it was just a trick of the light, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this place was too real. A chill raced through me as I heard the laughter again, this time ringing like chimes in the darkness. The voice that had called my name before now echoed a taunting question, "Riley, why are you still here?" "Because I have to know." I blurted out, desperation fueling my words. Then I noticed something move in the corner of that dark reflection, another figure, similar to the one I thought I'd seen before. My heart pounded faster, it was watching me. I could almost make out its features, dark hair, a familiar shape. "Is that me?" I whispered, but the laughter answered, cascading around me like haunted music. Suddenly, a sharp noise, like breaking glass, shattered my thoughts. I turned, panic overtaking me. Another shard of the mirror had cracked, sending a glimmering piece skittering across the floor. It landed near my foot, and I couldn't resist the urge to reach for it. As I bent down, a cold breath washed over me, pulling my attention toward the shadows once more. "Riley," the voice whispered again, soft yet piercing. It felt more like a summons than an invitation. "Come to us." I stood frozen, considering the invitation. What did it mean? Where was us? I took a careful step back, but the ground felt solid beneath me. I was trapped in this space, surrounded by the remnants of another world clashing with my own, and that when I saw it. A faint shimmer just beyond the wall, where the concrete warped and revealed more of the shape symbols that seemed alive and beckoning. I felt the urge to touch them, to trace their lines and unravel their purpose, but fear kept my feet anchored to the floor. Then, without warning, the ground tremored again, more violently this time, vibrating as if in response to some unseen force. A dark wind rushed through the space, swirling around me and pulling at my hair. I braced myself against the wall, uncertainty clawing at my chest. I had done enough exploring for one night, yet my curiosity burned stronger than my fear. I could not just stand here and wait for whatever this place was to consume me. I needed answers, or at least the truth behind these strange happenings. With a deep breath, I made my choice. I would step closer to the distortion in the wall. I had to know what lay beyond, even if it meant confronting the shadow of the figure that had haunted my sketches and dreams. Just as I reached the edge of the symbols, the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. I pulled my hand back, and the world around me seemed to hold its breath. But the moment lasted only seconds before the ground opened beneath me. The ground swallowed me whole. I plummeted, swallowed by darkness, the air rushing past me in a cold embrace. I landed with a thud on a hard surface. Pain shot through my shoulder, but I couldn't focus on that. I scrambled to my feet, disoriented and desperate for answers. What had just happened? The whispers were gone, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed down on me. I was in another space entirely. This room was dimly lit, shadows dancing along jagged walls, flickering like memories fading away. The air hung thick with the smell of mold and something metallic, like old blood that I stumbled forward, my heart racing. The last thing I wanted was to be alone in this forgotten place. I reached out, touching the walls for stability, but the surface felt slick and wrong under my fingers. Each step echoed in the emptiness, amplifying my unease. Then I saw it. A figure, half hidden in the corner of the room, just beyond the dim light. My breath caught in my throat. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. I took a hesitant step closer. The figure shifted, and my pulse quickened. "Riley," it whispered. The same voice, but distorted, layered with something that felt otherworldly. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of what was in front of me. It took a step toward me, face illuminated just enough to reveal features that mirrored my own. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, confusion tumbling over itself in my mind. "I am what you've been searching for," it said, and though the voice was mine, the tone held a depth I could not understand. "You want to know the truth, don't you?" I tried to back away, but the walls felt closer, as if they were leaning in to listen. "What truth?" "This place, it holds secrets." "Secrets you've woven into your dreams," it replied, and I felt an unsettling sense of recognition. The sketches, the paintings, had they brought me here? Was this shadow part of my own creation? Suddenly, a brilliant flash lit the room, blinding me momentarily. When my vision cleared, the figure had vanished. Panic surged through me as I searched the empty corners of this strange space. "Come back!" I shouted, echoing my frustration, but silence returned, thick and foreboding. I turned, desperate to find a way out. That's when I spotted a door narrow and slightly ajar, glowing faintly. I approached it, fear gnawing at me. What lay beyond? Would it take me back home or deeper into this nightmare? I felt the familiar pull of curiosity. I couldn't avoid it now, every instinct urged me to turn back. But if there was any hope of finding answers, the door was my best chance. With a trembling hand, I grasped the knob. Just as I began to turn it, I heard a soft, familiar laugh behind me, an echo of the laughter from before. I froze, dread slicing through my veins. "Come to us," it whispered again, inviting yet terrifying. I hesitated at the threshold, heart racing. What if I didn't like what I found on the other side? But if I didn't open the door, I might never know. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open. The air shifted, wrapping around me like an old quilt. I stepped through the door, desperate for answers but overwhelmed by anxiety. The space behind it opened up into a vast expanse, stretching impossibly wide. Shadows hung like thick fog, swirling slightly, reminiscent of the memories and dreams I'd battled with. In the center stood a flickering figure, its outline unstable, constantly shifting and merging with the darkness around it. "Welcome back, Riley," it spoke, voice layered, echoing in my mind like a melody. I recognized it, my voice, but not mine. It felt both familiar and alien. It took me a moment to realize it was me. The realization made my stomach churn. "You've come for the truth." I don't know what that means," I replied, my heart quickening. The figure seemed to reach for me, an extension of something I couldn't fully grasp. "What do you want?" "You brought yourself here," it said, eyes glimmering like stars in the void. "Every stroke of your pen, every sketch pulled you in. You've chased the darkness, and now it responds. You cannot leave until you understand." The swirling shadows thickened, forming shapes that whispered my thoughts, echoed hidden fears. I felt them tugging at my consciousness, dragging me into what lay buried within. I thought of my days in the old apartment, the laughter, the shadows, the endless whispers. Was this what I had wanted? Would I unravel their mystery, or become part of it? "Stop. You can't expect me to embrace this," I shouted, panic rising. I thought I could leave it behind. The figure smiled, and fragments of light spun around us. "You cannot escape what you are. The truth is neither wholly light nor dark. It exists in the shadows of who you are." A chorus of whispers surged around, pulling me closer to the figure. "Face it." At that moment, shadows rushed toward me, drawing me into their embrace. I squeezed my eyes shut, overwhelmed. With a jolt, I fought back and flew beyond that grasping darkness. The void fell silent, and I opened my eyes again, and before me was the door I had just entered. A weight dropped in my gut. Had this been my confrontation? It felt incomplete. I looked around, scanning for answers, but all that remained was emptiness, that same sensation of being pulled into an inescapable vortex. The shadows still danced in the corners of this space, ever watchful. As I stood there, uncertainty washed over me. "I'm not ready for this," I whispered, voice cracking. But then a flickering in the corner caught my attention, a piece of my old sketchbook, lying on the ground, illuminated by a soft glow. I picked it up, flipping through pages filled with my unsettling drawings, each sketch a fragment of my battles with fear and imagination. The shadows stirred, whispers returning. "Your journey is not completed," they beckoned. "You are its keeper now." But I remained frozen, the weight of the decision pressing against my chest. Should I take the plunge? Delve deeper into this crux where my reality twisted with the lore of the old resident? With a deep breath, I nodded, claiming my resolve. "I'll face it, all of it." My voice echoed, a pledge rising against the chaos around me. As if in reply, the shadows coalesced, and the air thickened with energy. A door loomed before me, glimmering, no longer ajar but inviting. My pulse raced as I stepped forward, about to turn the knob. Yet, in that instant, I felt a cold shiver. Would I find the clarity I searched for, or feed an endless cycle? And as I opened the door, the light surged, swallowing the shadows in a brilliant glow. Then suddenly, everything went dark. I was thrown into uncertain silence, leaving only the lingering echo of my heartbeat and an unshakable sense of being watched. That I still don't know what really resides in that old apartment. Sometimes I hear the whispers in my dreams. I changed cities after that night, trying to distance myself from those haunting shadows, yet they linger. I find myself sketching symbols, pulled toward the darkness with an inexplicable urgency. That I guess I'll never know if this is all a part of me or something much worse. Whatever it is, it knows me, and one day, I might just have to confront it again.